Hi everyone, it's Bella, and today I would like to go over the South African Mundane Astrology Horoscope from March 2025 to 2026, as well as April 2025 to 2026, with highlights to 2029. This is a general astrology horoscope. It's more of an update of the topics potentially activated in the mundane return and ingress charts for South Africa, looking at the solar return for the year summary, the Aries Ingress for the first 6 months, and the Libra Ingress for the last 6 months until next April of 2025. I use mostly traditional approaches for the birth chart of South Africa, 27 April 1994 at 0000 hours, as it marked the importance and the beginning of the first day that every South African had the freedom to cast a vote. The interpretation of the radix astrology chart is based on the given birth day, time, and location. These interpretations must be considered as suggestions and possibilities. The public is invited to reflect upon the interpretations and assess if they are worthy of being taken into consideration and implemented or not. The public should also know that the astrology chart reflects a potential, but does not offer a guarantee for that potential due to free will, as well as global agendas. I include important future periods. I did not have the time to go into the detail of my past videos, but just wanted to lay down the highlighted themes that could be expected. The current world condition can also at any time injunct upon the movements of this country, as we are ultimately part of a fast-changing world, more connected than what we have been told. South Africa's April 2025 to April of 2026 solar return confronts the nation with a stark reality. The financial, ethical, and spiritual cost of systemic injustice and corruption has reached a critical breaking point. With the year profected to the 8th house, the realm of shared resources, power, transformation, and taxes, the presence of the South Node demands that old exploitative alliances be released. And so they have. International funding has dried up, key partners have turned away, and once respected diplomatic relationships have been severed. This isn't simply fallout. Its karmic consequence, born of a nation that has allowed the abuse of its minorities to go unchallenged while clinging to a rotting political foundation. Nowhere is this more evident than in the ANC's ongoing state capture tactics, laid bare in its attempts to undermine or dissolve the DA coalition government. These maneuvers reveal not only a desperation to cling to power, but a conscious betrayal of democratic principles, undermining the will of the people in favor of maintaining unchecked control. It is a strategy of manipulation, deceit, and domination, the very essence of 8th house shadow power, not to mention also Pluto visiting our first house of identity, and it is being exposed under the unforgiving light of the current cosmic climate. At the heart of this year's solar return chart is a dangerous and telling T-square. Mars in the 2nd house of national wealth, Pluto in the 8th of corruption and hidden power, and the Sun symbolizing leadership at the apex in the 11th house, where collective will and alliances reside. Mars ruling the 10th house of government reflects a leadership acting out of aggression and self-interest, funneling national resources to maintain power. Pluto in the 8th shows the intense pressure to transform or be exposed, especially where financial misconduct, foreign partnerships, or long-term obligations are concerned, including raising taxes. But it is the sun in the 11th, caught between these forces, that reveals the greatest strain. The legitimacy and direction of South Africa's leadership are being challenged by both internal resistance and external consequences. The public and the global stage are watching and judging. The balsamic moon in Aries conjuncts Chiron in the 10th reveals a nation weary and wounded by the failures of its rulers. The people know that this chapter must close. They remember the promises that were never fulfilled. They feel the burn of injustice, particularly among marginalized groups who continue to be excluded from rights and protection. This is a moon that speaks of endings, of overdue reckonings. With Neptune entering Aries and the North Node in Pisces, the cosmos is demanding a new kind of leadership, one rooted not in control but in compassion. But the current trajectory, left unchecked, risks further deception and polarization. Instead of unity, nationalism could morph into division. Instead of clarity, we may see more illusion. The eclipses in the 3rd and 9th houses signal transformation in how South Africa communicates, both within and to the world. They point to hidden truths being revealed, particularly around education, infrastructure, and also foreign relations. Yet even as these revelations unfold, the ANC continues its attempt to silence opposition, coalition, and rewrite the democratic narrative, exposing its desperation to keep power at all costs, state capture. This year is not just another political cycle. It is a moment of collective moral judgment. The loss of foreign partnerships, economic strain, and public outrage are not anomalies. They are signs that the old ways are dying. The people demand more. The world expects more. The question is whether South Africa's leadership will surrender its grasp on a collapsing system or drag the entire nation down with it. The Aries Ingress of 2025, which marks a 6-month period until the September Libra Ingress of 2025. This is a period of reckoning with power, alliances, and collective wounds. From March to September 2025, South Africa enters a period of sharp ideological and diplomatic reckoning. The Aries Ingress casts the nation's identity into the spotlight, with the ruler of the ascendant placed in the 11th house, emphasizing collective goals, legislative alliances, and national goals. However, Mercury and Venus, both retrograde in Aries, complicate progress, demanding a re-evaluation of past agreements, diplomatic values, and the country's global image. South Africa finds itself paying a steep price for its treatment of minorities and undermining of democratic coalitions, including the ANC's aggressive attempts to destabilize DA governance and a legitimate GNU government. The erosion of trust from international partners and the severing of crucial funding streams reflect the 8th house perfection year, a time when the country must face the consequences of power misused and partnerships exploited. Continues exposal of corruption for this year as an 8th house perfection. A disseminating moon at 6 degrees of Sagittarius in the 7th house brings foreign affairs and public partnerships into sharp emotional relief. This moon phase demands transparency, truth, and a readiness to share hard-earned lessons, especially in how the country approaches justice, ideological alliances, and foreign diplomacy. The focus turns toward accountability in relationships, highlighting both the wisdom of past choices and the urgent need for more equitable, compassionate engagement on the world stage. The financial and ideological landscape is fraught with tension, marked by Mars in the second house, quincunx Pluto in the ninth, a destabilizing energy that pits short-term resource management against long-term ideological and legal transformation. Mars, as ruler of the 10th house, signifies aggressive and potential short-sighted fiscal policies that strain under the pressure of deeper systemic reforms. The square between Mars and Chiron in the 11th intensifies these wounds, pointing to a fractured collective, where legislative bodies and public movements grapple with unresolved trauma, particularly surrounding racial injustice, inequality, and betrayal by the leadership of the ANC. These are not just economic scars, but deep societal ones made worse by inflammatory governance. With Saturn conjunct the North Node in the 10th house, a karmic demand for accountability in leadership cannot be ignored. Neptune, lingering at the anaretic degree of Pisces, overlays this with evidence of self-sabotage and managed decline toward a global agenda, idealism and illusions. The final gasp of people blind to the ANC's hidden governance agenda that must now give way to action-oriented clarity as Neptune prepares to enter Aries. Pluto in the ninth continues to revolutionize South Africa's legal, academic, and philosophical structures, challenging the nation to evolve or collapse under the weight of its contradictions. A reverse apartheid and 142 race-based laws inciting violence with no consequence, a justice system broken, a government that still blames apartheid for their own incompetence. The Virgo-Pisces nodal axis reinforces this divide. The call is to move beyond rigid racist structures of revenge, very scorpionic, and blame, and instead move toward a more inclusive, awakened future with a government that is accountable for its actions and serves the people, not their own pockets. This is a crucial 6-month window. The eclipses in the 4th, 10th, and 11th houses point to a triad of transformation: land, values, heritage, leadership, and policy, alliances, and collective direction. What breaks down during this period must not be mourned as a loss, but rather recognized as a clearing for a rebirth. The Libra Ingress of September 2025, South Africa's turning point. On 22 September 2025, the Libra Ingress casts a powerful chart for South Africa, marked by Aquarius rising, mirroring the national radix, and a striking new moon at 29 degrees of Libra in the 9th house. This symbolizes a national reset in diplomacy, law, and ideology, hinting at a fresh start in foreign policy, legal reforms, and constitutional matters, opposing Neptune in the 3rd house. The new moon also highlights tension between truth and deception, masked in communication, speeches, and education. Public discourse may be clouded by misinformation or idealism, making discernment crucial as new narratives take shape. With Pluto retrograde in the 1st house, South Africa is undergoing a profound identity transformation, an inward revolution that pushes the country to realign its external stance with its core values. The Saturn return at 29 degree Pisces in the 2nd house signals the closure of karmic, financial, and racist cycles and the start of a more disciplined, sustainable economic approach. Jupiter, exalted in the 6th house, brings growth to health and labor sectors. Though its square to Chiron reminds us that past issues of infrastructure and public service systems still require work, transparency, and solutions. Mercury's close conjunction to the new moon enhances diplomacy and policy dialogue, but Neptune's influence suggests that clarity may be elusive. Meanwhile, Mars in Scorpio, our 10th house of government, squares both Pluto and Chiron, indicating bold leadership moves, possible power struggles, and intense efforts at systemic reform. A trine from Uranus in the 5th to Pluto in the 1st signals cultural and generational awakening driven by the youth, creativity, and also technology as vehicles of uprising for national renewal. Altogether, this ingress marks a defining moment for South Africa. The critical 29-degree new moon suggests the closing of one era and the cusp of another. It's a moment to recalibrate identity, truth, as well as justice, pushing the country towards transformation through law, reform, and the re-imaging of what it stands for on the global stage. Astrological highlights for South Africa from 2025 to 2029. A nation reborn through crisis and vision. South Africa is poised to enter one of the most profound, transformative eras in its modern history. Beginning in 2025, the nation is swept into a vortex of planetary transits that echo with themes of revolution, collapse, and rebirth. This is not merely a chapter in political upheaval. It's an astrological crucible, one that will test the very identity and soul of this nation. The turning point begins mid-2025 as Saturn enters Aries, transiting South Africa's radix 3rd house. Historically, this placement correlates with revolutions, civil rights movements, national border disputes, and fierce debates around freedom of speech. As Saturn slowly moves through Aries until 2028, it calls the nation to face hard truths around infrastructure, communication, ideology, and public discourse. At the same time, Uranus enters Gemini, the 5th house, in July, disrupting themes of youth, minority rights, creativity, leadership, and public morale. This placement often heralds sudden changes in societal structures, especially involving youth movements, technology, communication frequencies, and speculative ventures. On a world level, innovation and transhumanism, wars, and shifts in how we interact as a society worldwide will be accelerating. April 2026 marks the beginning of the Mars for Daria planetary period, a 7-year phase of aggressive transformation and confrontation. Mars rules South Africa's 10th house of government and leadership, so this period is likely to be characterized by political volatility, youth-led resistance, military tension, gun control issues, and power contests. The 2026 Scorpio rising solar return highlights these themes powerfully. With Mars at 0 degrees Scorpio in the 10th house, opposite Pluto, the symbolism suggests a radical reset in governance, possibly a coup, or at least a bold regime change. In astrological terms, a coup need not be literal. it may manifest as an aggressive dismantling of old leadership structures, executive overreach, or revolutionary power realignment. Amid this backdrop, a new moon in Virgo in the 11th house signals shifts in the legislative and parliamentary structures. I believe we also have a local government election scheduled for November 2026 to February of 2027, which also falls under this umbrella. While Venus at 0 degrees Gemini lifts youth voices and calls for a reevaluation of public values, Jupiter in Cancer, though hopeful, implies that real ideological reform must take root through law and moral clarity. By July of 2026, as Mars conjoins Uranus in the 5th house, sparks fly, potentially igniting youth-led uprisings, riots, or cultural rebellions. The Leo solar eclipse in August of 2026 hits key angular houses in South Africa's chart, with the North Node conjoining Pluto in the 1st house and squaring the natal nodal axis in the 10th and the 4th. It's a moment of intense karmic reckoning and a call for foundational change in leadership. The year 2027 becomes a pivotal moment. The nation enters a 10th house profection year, emphasizing leadership, government, and visibility on the world stage. Aquarius rising in the solar return reflects identity renewal and grassroots innovation. Yet this comes with pain. The nodes square the natal sun and moon. Mars crosses the midheaven opposite Chiron, and Jupiter opposes natal Saturn, indicating ideological clashes, economic volatility, and unresolved trauma projected onto authority. The April 2027 loosening of the bonds period could signify a dramatic shift or collapse in government, either a mass resignation, forced transition, or major restructuring. 2028 deepens the restructuring. Pluto crosses the ascendant, bringing themes of control, power, and personal sovereignty to the forefront. Saturn at 29 degrees Aries suggests karmic culmination in national narratives of autonomy, race, and justice. Venus-Uranus contacts in Taurus and Gemini stir further unpredictability in youth movements, the love of country, and public values. As the year ends, Mars at 29 degrees of Virgo reflects high-stakes financial negotiations, conflict in public health or labor, and tension in alliances. Pluto trining Uranus opens a portal for radical but constructive change. By 2029, the pressure peaks as Pluto squares natal Jupiter retrograde in the 10th house of government, a signal of profound ideological transformation. The old belief systems that upheld corrupt or outdated political structures will no longer hold. This is a reckoning, one that questions the morale and legal framework of governance and replaces it with something either visionary or authoritarian, depending on the country's choices and the rate of their awakening. Also in 2029, a trine which links 3 water signs, Cancer, Pisces, and Scorpio, all of which are emotionally charged but spiritual and connected to deep collective memory and survival instincts. Planets involved are progressed Venus in Cancer, 6th house, natal Saturn in Pisces 2nd house, and natal Jupiter retrograde in Scorpio 10th house. But what deepens and complicates this pattern is that progressed Venus, also the ruler of our national sun and leadership symbol, the symbol of national values, harmony, and relational identity, is under the dominion of the fallen moon in Scorpio in the radix 10th house. This moon is not gentle. It is ancestral. It is wounded, and it governs not comfort but catharsis. It's a rare and powerful alignment suggesting deep karmic healing and structural recalibration. I'll repeat that. It's a rare and powerful alignment suggesting deep karmic healing and structural recalibration, especially around leadership, economy, and how the people serve and are served by the state. A breakthrough could come through a values-based realignment of public service systems and governance, but only if the emotional and historical burdens of the Scorpio moon are consciously transmuted. I believe we also have national elections in 2029. Currently, the cosmic echoes between the Battle of Blood River on 16 December of 1838 and the current sky of the Aries Ingress of 2025 are striking and deeply symbolic for South Africa. The events of 1838 became mythologized in Afrikaner national history. 16 December was commemorated by Afrikaners for over a century as a symbol of divine favor and national identity. Post-apartheid, South Africa reframed the day as the day of reconciliation, meant to bridge divides between former oppressors and oppressed, and to promote unity. Back then, the North Node in Pisces, at 27 degrees, same as the Aries Ingress and solar return for 2025 to March of 2026, pointed to a collective karmic moment, one steeped in themes of sacrifice, spirituality, martyrdom, and the challenge of integrating diverse peoples. Jupiter, the North Node's ruler in Gemini, as now, and was in its detriment, suggesting fractured ideologies, dual narratives, and the difficulty of uniting under a single national identity. Fast forward to now, and the stars speak again. Jupiter is back in Gemini, once more questioning our shared truths, pushing us to confront the multiplicity of voices, and challenging the dominance of any singular narrative. Mars in Cancer, then and at Ingress, activates themes of emotional defense, homeland protection, and historical trauma, especially linked to race and national memory. Layer this with the North Node and Saturn currently in Pisces, just as we finish our Saturn return of 1994 to 1996, as at the Blood River, and we're seeing a potent karmic return, one that asks South Africa to heal old racial wounds, honor all voices within the collective, and confront illusions around unity, race, and leadership. The moon in Scorpio, now embedded in our national rebirth radix chart, carries the ancestral pain of conflict, corruption, self-sabotage, and betrayal. But it also holds the potential for radical transformation if we choose transparency and regeneration over power hoarding and dependency. Right now, we face a crisis of leadership, not of capability, but of intent. Many in power act as gatekeepers, maintaining control by fostering dependence rather than empowering their people. Even the recent Sun-Venus conjunction in Pisces mirrors the Sagittarius Sun-Venus conjunction of 1838, with Jupiter ruler of both these signs, now retrograde in the 10th house of radix government. This highlights the tension between state ideologies and the moral values that truly serve the people. It asks, will love, justice, and shared dignity shape the future of South Africa's identity? Or will we continue repeating cycles of conquest, division, and romanticized domination? Perhaps the future lies in the Aquarian ideal, a decentralized, pluralistic model where distinct cultures coexist in autonomy rather than opposition. Back in 1838, Uranus was in Aquarius, calling for radical reinvention. Now, as Pluto occupies Aquarius, our first house and our identity, and Uranus moves into fast, free, and mutable, double-bodied Gemini, a sign governing borders, neighborhoods, trade, the youth, education, the media, and societal infrastructure. We are being challenged again. Can we build a society that honors difference without domination? A federation? Pluto in Aquarius, first house, and while Uranus is in Gemini, fifth for the next 7 years, the entire Mars-Verdaria period. The two will form the flow of power to the youth especially, the people and individual rights and freedoms, the transformation of identity through intellectual awakening. This is the genius generation, the signal breakers, the myth dissolvers, the pattern shedders, the builders of a new civic language. And if the system resists their light, they will simply build something outside of it. This is not just history repeating. This is a soul contract coming full circle that will not carry its racial inheritance into the future. Oh, South Africa, the edge of greatness. South Africa stands upon the edge of greatness. A trembling precipice between shadow and dawn. Those who dig graves for others must know that they dig their own. Such is the curse of corruption, the venom of power misused, the scorpionic sting that festers in high halls where justice is silenced and truth betrayed. But even here, on the brink of despair, a great light stirs. It rises not from thrones, but from the hearts of the people. Hands joined and voices as one, color dissolved in the brilliance of unity. For no spell, no doctrine of division, no hateful chant can overcome a nation that remembers. Together we stand. They hoped that secrets would keep them tamed, illiterate, unthinking, unmoving, programmable souls. But the tide is turning, and in the next few years a new banner shall rise. A new government will be born, not of shadow, not of fear, but of fire, of vision, and of the people. We say never again to the scorpionic reign of secrecy and betrayal. Never again to racist regimes where we bow and pay for the sins of our fathers, who wear masks of liberation while inciting nation against nation, while oppressing the very soul of this land. This country belongs not to the ANC of managed decline and global agendas, nor the EFF, nor any party that stokes division. This country belongs to God, and to every soul who has drawn their first breath beneath its sun. This is the age of Aquarius, a time when the people rise, when tyrants fall, when governments that do not serve the people will be washed away by the will of the awakened spirit of humanity. God will not bless a nation that bullies the few, invites corruption, or sells its soul to silence. A Hunger Games replay. But to the just, to the brave, to the united, he will give a new dawn, a new flag, a new 10th house, and with it, a new destiny. Like a caterpillar in its chrysalis of darkness, we must pass through the stage of transformation to earn our wings. And so we shall. May the sun shine bright on you this day. May there be blessings coming your way. Until next time.